Not completely, but
Okay, let's talk about who you are in terms of what you know about your history.
my
Or how much have you gone back and looked at that history?
my history is very complicated, and I've done a lot of research on it because I've lived in an area of primary local people, very proud of their land, and I was kind of an assimilation of a lot of things. My mother is from the island called Ponte, which is one of the 4 islands that make up the Federated States of Micronesia. And my father was a military brat, and he's Caucasian. And my parents met, and my mother wanted to be close to home, and my father wanted us to be U.S. citizens. So they opted for us to move to Guam, so my mom could be close to her family. My mother is Pohnpeian, Japanese, and British. And her grandfather, my great-grandfather, was a huge part of the Japanese fleet when they invaded Micronesia. And he fell in love with my great-grandmother, who is an islander there. And they had my grandmother. My great-grandfather wanted to take my great-grandmother back to Japan to be one of his mistresses, as they had. And my great-grandmother said no. Had my grandmother. He left back to Japan. He bought a huge parcel of land on Ponte and built it up into a hotel for my great-grandmother, of which called Plumeria Beach, after the flower. And that was where most of my summers and Christmas breaks were spent, on that beach that he built. But Guam, my mother originally was married to a Pohnpeian and had my sister. She lived there her whole life. I've always known she's had this, kind of outsider look, wanting to go out. She was lighter complected than most of the Pohnpeians there because of her father and her Japanese heritage. She looked very different. So she always kind of wanted to get out. My sister's father died when my mom was 6 months pregnant. He committed suicide. So she had to basically start up her life again. Met my father, who was assigned to be the Attorney General of Ponce, which is from Seattle, which is fate if I ever knew it. And they met, fell in love, and my mom's life drastically changed for the better. Not a lot of people have the chance to leave. It's a lot of money, a big risk to get away from family. It's a third world country, developing, primary language spoken there is still Pohnpeian. Kind of getting to English nowadays, but not really. And it's been such a huge part of me because Guam is a representation of an island that kind of, has assimilated some way to a Western sex culture. Not, voluntarily. After World War II, the local land there, or the local population was kind of forbidden to practice, our local language, our heritage. English was now the predominant language. So for me, it was really hard growing up in Guam and the petty infighting between islanders there, between Micronesians, where my mother's from, the local people there, being white in a predominantly dark-colored, island, but also being islander myself, but also being, Caucasian, and then the military versus local people in Guam has been such a potent environment that I've lived in, especially with a huge deployment. They've taken over an entire northern part of the island, southern part of the island, so as a white person, there you're automatically kind of recognized as part of this military invasion, of which I am not. I am completely 100% islander, if I know it. I've never known anything but that. Wealth disparity is huge. If you're lucky enough to leave and get educated, you mostly stay away. That's why there's not a lot of progress. Um, so I came here and hoping to kind of change that. Get educated and go back and kind of invest, because that's the only way change will happen. But it's a beautiful, beautiful place, built so many different people, melting pot, 180,000 people population in Guam. Ponape is even smaller, I think 80,000 people. So that's kind of what grounded me and built me. The funny thing is, while my great-grandfather, my mother's side, was fighting the Japanese, you know, on the he was head of the Japanese fleet, my grandfather on my dad's side was fighting on the American side. So it's a strange, strange story. My mother's side, I have about 100 cousins that I don't know of, because I know he had mistresses. My great-grandfather on Japanese side probably has people I've never met there, probably will never meet. My grandma has 11, I think, brothers and sisters, all with kids, kids who have kids, kids who have kids. So I have a huge, it's so funny, my mom's side is just like so huge, just different life, completely different life. And then my dad, I have 3 cousins on my dad's side. I know my aunt and uncle. It's very normal, and I think it's so funny that my dad kind of got mixed into that new lifestyle, but he seems to love it. Big family, and yeah, that's me.
So you came here to study, to get away from.
That was originally the purpose. I wanted to leave.
And the subject that you chose as a vehicle to get here was journalism?
I originally got into NYU through acting. It was my life for a while, and you know, when you're isolated on a small island, you dream, and you dream big. And that was my big dream, and then I came to school for it, and after 4 months, 5 months of doing it, I realized it was too selfish for me. I don't know. I'm not saying it's selfish. It's just for me, I've always been so involved, you know, in my island and social, like, I just wanted to know more about the world.
So I'm curious about you coming here with all this expense over your head and studying something that you're going to go back with and using it to benefit the populace.
That's what you need to do, and that's.
So.
First, that was in my.
So the skills that you're studying now, how does that apply to that?
Well, I'm a
objective?
I'm a double major in journalism, and I study metropolitan studies, which is urban planning, and gender and sexuality. Guam is predominantly Catholic. Guam has a very set political agenda. Guam has a very set religious agenda. I came here and my mind was blown. It expanded beyond anything I think I could have imagined. I realized the social networkings of areas. I realized Guam in juxtaposition to the greater world. I realized that it's so easy to stay complacent with the way things are. However, it takes it to leave and maybe expand your mind to understand that things can change and the ways to go about that. I'm not saying I have the answers. I'm just saying if all of us who have the opportunity to leave Guam and get educated stay away.
How do you feel about me here in America and you in Guam?
You know, if there's such a big difference, but there's somewhat not. I mean, you like talking about, you know, the way that art has developed, you know, talking about the way that, you know, racial tension has developed, just social, you know, workings. Every place I realize has their infightings, their petty infightings, their petty racial stipulations, their petty, you know, whatever it may have you. And, you know, a big thing about Guam is that a lot of, you know, of what people do know about Guam is through, you know, art through some sort of war recollection or, some sort of capturing of the moment of that time.
How does information come in?
Well, we have, because we are trying to hold on so dear to our culture, we have these venues where we have our Guam art exhibition, where it's all local artists coming and telling the story of the story of our ancestors and what they went through is never lost. That is always through word of mouth. That is always something. So Guam is so spiritual. As soon as you get there, you feel this connection that
What
you
about
have
the
with their
infusion
culture.
of outside information? How
Well, it's
TV.
yeah, we have it all. I mean, it's Western. I mean,
Where's it
that's the
coming
thing.
from?
It's like if people look at the pictures of like back in World War II, they
So you
think
get
of us as
satellite-
uncivilized
so you get
people.
satellite information.
Yeah, people think, but that's like I get that all the time, and it's so funny. It's well, but your English is so perfect. You're from Guam, or but how do you know all these things, or how do you act the way you do? Because they think it's disconnected, and if you look at the pictures.
So when the Apple phone came out, it showed up in
I mean,
Guam.
we got it a year, like maybe a couple months later, but yes. I mean, movies may come out like 2 days after it says it would in the States, but they still come out. I mean, Ponce, on the other hand, is completely different. I don't think
What's
they
the
even
primary
know.
source of income there for most people?
For Guam, well, it varies. My dad's a lawyer, and if you're a lawyer anywhere, you'll make a little more money than most people. There's not like a huge, mass amount of people who do a certain thing. But I will say this, that most people make around, $30,000 a year.
Doing what?
Odd jobs.
So the money is there, it's just being circulated back and forth through the system with new money coming in? And
Well, we
old money
generate around
leaving?
1 million tourists a year, and that is our
Okay.
main source of
Now I get it.
outsider money. We have a huge Japanese tourist population. That kind of definitely our economy depends on it, because our economy is not doing, too hot itself right now. We are an autonomy like Puerto Rico, but we still depend heavily
So it's the ocean
on.
front, basically, that creates the money.
Yeah. And
Food,
I mean,
you grow your own food.
no, not
Imported.
really. We have all
Supermarkets.
imported. Yeah, I mean, we don't have
The
we don't have chains that are here.
The
We
price
don't-
of a pound of rice. a bar of
I haven't had
margarine.
rice in a
A
while.
bar of margarine.
Oh, that's $3. $3.50.
Sugar
think-
drink.
Oh, sugar drink. $1.50. Well, it depends. If it's small can, you can get for like $1. Bigger, like $2.25.
Beer, wine,
Beer is like wine is expensive.
illegal drugs.
Expensive.
It's there though.
We don't get no 2 for $30. I mean, if you're lucky, that doesn't really. That's like
the jungle, is it still there?
Yeah, slowly but surely
It's being
retreating.
chopped
I mean,
away.
Yeah, I mean the military took the entire northern part for the Air Force, and entire southern part for the Navy. And now with the deployment, they were trying to bring in, all these military from Okinawa, and they were going to take the middle part of our land, taking over, turning one of our beautiful, reservoirs into like a firing range, dredging our coral. There was this huge draft environmental statement that was put out about this, about the effects of this, and deployment has been coming in slowly, but it hasn't hit the mass numbers that it is predicted to, and I'm not sure where that's going. It seems like the local people are just waiting, I went to a private school because there's more private schools than public schools in Guam, which is seems to me. The public schools in Guam are one of, the worst schools, like I would say, in the nation. Overpopulated, poor infrastructure. They just started building up these new schools that, rebuilding them, making it safe even to, go to school. And, I mean, the disparity between public and private is insane. And basically, unfortunately, the thought that I was instilled in my mind was that I was so lucky to go to private school, because if not, I would have to work so much harder in order to get out. So it's always been instilled that I'm so lucky that, my father makes a good living, because the alternative is not great.
So how many's lost?
Huh?
Population-wise, education seems to be...
Oh gosh,
What happens to that group of people?
They stay. And
multiply.
Multiply. And you know what? I will say they are happy. I mean, it's and this is what I realized leaving. Who is to say that life, even though it was never I wanted or imagined, who is to say that life is not happy? Making $20,000, $30,000 a year, being with your family, living on an idyllic paradise, and just being good people and loving one another and loving your culture. And yeah, maybe your kids go through the same, system or whatever, but, if they want to choose to go out, then hopefully they can. But if not, it's home. They're happy. They're happy. They're happy they could go to the beach and have a couple beers, and that's their day or weekend. And I love that about where I'm from, and I never thought I would appreciate that until I left. And I love Guam. I love what it represents. I love the culture there. I love the people there. I love what family means. I love what friendship means.
How long do you take to come around to that? Just being lonely that created that kind of feeling?
It was being exposed to this. It was being exposed to people.
Is there,
I don't know, people were so different. I don't even understand how different. I never thought there was a difference. You never realize how different people really are. The way that people are raised and how it really affects you.
Better here?
Okay. It's more, I would say,
Let's
it's
be
more
honest now.
formal here. It's not intimate. And that's what I grew up with, was constant intimacy with people. And
here you could be yourself, alone, weird and ridiculous, and nobody even cares.
Yes, and that's it. And once you've really gone to know New York, or love it.
So you become aware of there's no top and there's no bottom.
Yeah, and I always,
and
that was such
everyone
a weird,
must stand in the same line.
That was such a weird switch for me, because I always had this idea of making it, and when I realized that the idea of I look on my parents' life and I'm just like, God, that's making it to me. They live there for over 20-some years. They've developed a life there separate from a lot of things that my father grew up with, but they're happy, and that's making it. You're childish. I'm not saying it's childish.
So that happiness was passed on to you in terms of making you comfortable enough.
I don't think I would have had that unless I left, and then I realized, this dream that you formulate in your mind whenever you're from a small place or whatever have you, what you build up to be everything but this. And then when you have this, it changes you. I've grown up so much in this city. It's insane. The last 3 years, I feel like I've aged 10 years. And that's not a bad thing.
So you're ready to go back now, you say?
Not forever. I'm ready to go back and visit, but I think I have so much more to learn and develop before I can truly make any difference.
So you asked me about my journey. My journey is similar to yours.
Yeah.
Coming out of the South
Mhm.
in a weird, ridiculous kind of caste system. Coming up here and finding my place in the top and bottom system.
Yeah.
And being very comfortable and very happy with that. Not so much didn't have everything. That wasn't necessary. I just needed a taste of whether or not I wanted it or not.
Mhm.
And once you go through all those different tastes, you develop some sort of,
Yeah.
okay, this is the way I am now.
And I realize more than ever that I am, I've never felt like I had an identity because I was a mix of so many different things, and to be honest, my mother never really liked me identifying as on a band. She was like, no, you're white. What are you talking about, son? You're white. Whenever my brother and I try to, because we're so proud to be different. I'm so proud to have that part of me. Like, I grew up on an island, so when we hear that, yeah, okay, it's just, the color of my skin, that's not, that doesn't generate, or that's not how I feel I am.
It's your genes that basically is
Yeah.
the formula to how you
and I'm a
So you have very ancient genes in yourself in terms of getting to Guam, that part of the travel.
So Asian, and I think that's because I study how do these social relations come to play. How has today, and the groups that have been formed today, how have they been formed? How do we see gender? How do we see race now? What has happened? And every place is different, and Fort and Guam is no exception, and I'm a perfect example of that. And I don't know. It's, I may always be seen as the other, whether I'm home as non-local or whether I'm here and I'm considered ethnic. But maybe that's an identity that I'm okay with employing, because that means that I can drift, and I can be a drifter. That's great.
All right, lady. Thank you very much.
Thank
Your
you.
name is?
I am Tana Tarpley, originally Montandon Tarpley. Montandon's my real name, but I go by Tana.
Thank you.
Thank you.